Excited to be back hosting NTV Unscripted. My name is Victoria Beale, and we have got such a treat for you this evening. I'm delighted to welcome my guest, Dr Rana Al-Falaki, who is the founder of Nail It, but she's also one of the top periodontists in the country, and she's also an award winner and a best-selling author. Is there anything you cannot do? Welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honour. I was really excited about today.
So am I. So, you know, these achievements don't just happen overnight, as we know. And I know about your story, but I want your story to be shared with the nation because it's so interesting and it hasn't been easy for you. So tell us about little Rana, first of all. How did she come to be?
Little Rana. Well, if I go back to sort of biology science lesson.
Some people may need to know about these things.
Yeah,
who knows?
Maybe not. Okay, well, so I am of Arab origin, born in London and have spent my whole life here. To Arab parents. So my father is Iraqi and my mother from Bahrain.
Wow.
And they have their own adventures that I knew about when I was a kid, but never really understood the stories until actually more recently. So my dad escaped on rooftops and buried himself in puddles and reeds to avoid being killed, and ended up in Manchester University in the 70s on a scholarship.
Wow.
And in the end, sort of never went back to Iraq. And my mother was the head of press and political affairs for the United Arab Emirates and also their press attaché.
Wow.
My dad ran his own business in many different countries around the world. So they were very high achievers.
Yes.
Very loving parents. I was the youngest of three, so I got away with it. I think it's the best way. I was probably my parents' favourite on both scores, up on a pedestal a little bit, but my belief is that I earned it. Mm-hmm. You know, I really was a good child.
Good, yeah.
But yeah, so high achievers, highly academic. You know, nobody in my family would have anything less than 1 degree at least. You know, you had to probably have your master's and your PhD. So I think that's where a lot of my drive came towards being successful.
Yes.
Interestingly, my name, how you mentioned my name, my entire time in secondary school and in primary school, I was too frightened to ever correct anybody when they called me Rana. Which is really weird. I just didn't have that confidence in myself at all. But I was this very charming young girl. And then when I was 12, something happened in my life, which I'm not going to go into in great detail today, but I talk about it in my book.
Yes.
But let's just say that one of the childs got locked away. And after that, I always thought I was a completely highly functioning young lady who was fiercely independent and very happy to be on my own. You know, I have memories of being in secondary school and always sitting in the row of desks that was single rather than paired up, but that was my choice.
Yeah.
And it's only later in life I recognised that actually it's because I didn't want anyone to get close to me, and I didn't want to really trust anybody for fear of being hurt.
Yeah.
So, but on the other side, so I realised I was this tormented soul that was hiding behind a million layers. But at the same time, I was a very high achiever. So always a grade A through my own inner drive, this desire to succeed and do really well. Went on to do my A-levels, again, you know, did them early, and then went off to university to study dentistry.
Amazing. Would you say that academia was a kind of a bit of an escapism for you?
Exactly. But I didn't realise it. I didn't actually recognise it until probably a few years ago when I came to terms with my past.
Yes.
So yeah, and massive academic achiever. So went to university, excelled again, came through with a distinction, really got involved in the social life in medical school as well. So I went to the London Hospital in Whitechapel, and again I was student president of the Dental Society, heavily involved in the Drama Society, always doing lots of things. And then I left and then went on to do my master's degree to specialise in periodontics. So that was another 5 to 6 years on top of the 5-year degree of dentistry. So it's a lot of study.
Yes.
But then was probably, I would say, the youngest specialist in the country before I was the age of 30.
Amazing. And so from sort of leaving school to completing the studies, what's the time frame we're talking?
Well, till the age of 29.
So oh my goodness me, that just boggles my mind to even think about it.
It was non-stop, but not without personal struggles at the same time.
Well, feel free to share what you want to on that, Rana, because at the end of the day, it's made you who you are. And I think people watching your story today will be like, wow, how did she do that when she was dealing with this?
Yeah. So when I was in my early 20s, I finally spoke to my mother and told my mum what had happened to me when I was 12 years old. But at that point, I didn't have a voice. I really didn't have a voice. So it was a very stilted attempt to get words out. And I couldn't tell her anymore. Only I knew she needed answers. So I invited her to sort of speak to her sister, talk to some other family members, find out what she needed to find out. But my relationship with my mother was so unbelievably close. You know, when I go back to those pictures of when I was a little kid, I was always clinging to her. You know, I was so close to her. She was my world. She was my anchor. She was the person who believed in me. She was the person who championed me. She was the person who, without a doubt, I would always ask for advice from and never ever doubt her advice. You know, an unbelievable relationship. And then during my time in dental school, she became ill with cancer. And so this was very shortly after I'd spoken to her about what had happened. And I think, well, what I discovered later on within myself was that guilt that I carried, thinking I had caused her this extra distress and potentially her cancer, and that can absolutely happen. But anyway, she died a few years later, so when I was 24 years old.
Such a young age. But you still carried on though.
Yeah.
What you were doing.
I was I'd finished my degree and I was doing my vocational training in Canterbury, and I remember my dad, who's very stoic, very strong, and has a massive standing within the community. He was devastated, but he had to be strong for everybody else.
Of course.
And so again, that's probably where I got part of the attitude from. You've got to be strong for everybody. You can't let your emotions out. And so 40 days afterwards, because she was Muslim, we had an event for her, and the turnout was unbelievable. People held at SOAS University, and just people talking about her, both in Arabic and in English, and being simultaneously translated, which was then turned into a book.
Wow. So
we really did honour her. But I remember my dad at the time, as strong as he wasn't able to say, to greet the community and talk about her. So I, as the youngest of three, said I would.
You would.
And I just remember that evening for 2 to 3 hours in floods of tears, thinking, how on earth am I about to go up on stage and actually talk about this amazing woman? Because I think people had their own stories about her, but it was almost as if they forgot that she also left 3 children behind who would never, and those people, none of us were married at the time, none of us had kids, it was just this whole venture of the future. So my mother dying, I started writing poetry after that point, actually, and I realised that was in many ways a way of me learning to be able to express my emotions, because none of it came out of the voice. And I remember writing a poem, a ship lost at sea without their anchor.
Wow.
And that was definitely, when I look back, that was a really pivotal moment in my life, my mother dying, because I think at that point it all fell apart. Not academically, of course not.
No.
But I felt everybody left home.
So
I was living in West London, my sister moved out, My brother moved out. They went and got married or with their partners. My dad left the country a year later because it was just too painful for him. And I was left home with the parrot. As I put it, we had this lovely little African grey parrot who lived till he was about 35.
Oh.
So it was me and the parrot and my postgrad studies.
Yeah.
Trekking across London, doing my postgrad studies. So that's really what I held on to. And at the same time, I was engaged to somebody at the time.
Right.
And my mother had really loved this guy. So when I realized that this was not the relationship for me, again, having the courage to walk away from that was immense. And it was actually only my dad, my wonderful dad, who stepped in as both mother and father that made me see the light, shall we say, and I managed to walk away. But while I continued to excel in my career, relationships were never really my strong point, and I found myself in one abusive relationship after the next, in some shape or form, sometimes physical, frequently emotional.
Yes.
And I'd find myself in that for a year, 2 years, and then eventually there would be this inner core of strength that would suddenly wake up again, and I'd go from outwardly being this unbelievably confident and highly successful woman who inside having doubts, insecurities, fears, but there was always this little bit of courage that in the end would be able to walk away.
Amazing.
But I kept repeating the same pattern.
Listen, you're not the first, you won't be the last, let's be honest. But I mean, it's made you very, very strong. You have to, and
100%. I always say these things happen. It's not about what happened to me.
No.
It's about what happened for me.
You.
Because it's made me who I am. The consequences were not being able to express it, which is where Nail It was born, which is where we'll get on to later.
Yes.
But that's the issue. It's not. It's allowing yourself to be manipulated and think you're not worthy and think you're not good enough. But of course, excelling academically on the other side, because what I discovered was deep down inside me, I never really loved myself. I never really liked myself. I felt incredibly ashamed of deep down. And therefore, it's what we call the prover gremlin in the world of coaching,
Right.
So you have to prove that you're a good person, and therefore, how else can I be an amazing person if I achieve all these amazing academic accolades, which I did. But I will definitely credit my parents with that drive at the same time. It's a combination of both, really.
Combination. You're a very unique person. Amazing story. So for everyone who's now watching, everyone's asking this question: what is a periodontist?
What is a periodontist? So a periodontist is a specialist in gum disease. So just like in the field of medicine, you might have an orthopedic surgeon or a cardiologist. So in dentistry, we can also specialize through a very, very similar pathway. So it took 5 years to be a periodontist, so a specialist in gum disease, everything around teeth.
And people don't realize how destructive gum disease is.
Oh my goodness.
This is shocking. If you want to just reel those things.
Well, now, the real shock, so it's considered to be an indicator for early death.
Amazing.
Because it's a chronic disease, it's a chronic illness that where your immune system cannot fight the attack. And if you think it's something that's destroying bone around your jaw and shedding your teeth. And it's linked to heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's, all kinds of other diseases. It's massive. So, but I loved it. I chose to go into that discipline for many reasons. I think one, being at dental school, it just made sense to me. It was that easy subject. But also, and obviously there was surgery involved, so I like working with my hands and I was operating on people. But at the same time, that was just it. I was working on people, never teeth.
No.
So, I've been a specialist for over 20 years, and it's always the person who walks into my room and the person who sits down and the stories I tease out of them to understand why they have a chronic disease.
Yes.
And my master's degree, my actual thesis was all about stress and what it does to us, what it does to our body, what it does to our immune system, and how we do or don't respond to treatment because of stress. But I'm still surprised today when people say, does stress really do that? And it's like, yes,
absolutely.
Yes. It is a killer.
And I've just been told by my lovely producers we have 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, how do we prevent this terrible disease? If there's some things that we could do every day to stop this happening?
Yeah, well, the normal everyday thing is behaviour, obviously. So, you know, how well you brush your teeth, making sure you use brushes to clean in between your teeth, not just with a toothbrush. But then it's the lifestyle elements as well. It's managing your stress, or managing how you perceive stress, which is about learning to be mindful and not allow yourself to be buried, not internalize emotions. It's about quitting smoking. It's about having a healthy diet. It's about losing weight so that you are a healthy BMI. It's about making sure that you sleep properly, making sure that you look after yourself.
Wow.
It's crazy. Anything that affects your immune system. So I will often get people onto certain supplements if they don't respond. But what I have to do, which is why I then went on to become a coach, is because for 20 plus years, I've spent all this time listening to people and having to tap into their mindset.
Yeah.
What kind of mindset do they have? And therefore, what do I need to do to get buy-in, to get this person to shift their behavior? So own their condition.
Yes.
Understand that they have a chronic illness, want to have treatment, and at the same time, what other behaviours are they going to do to be able to manage this? And actually talking of women as well, then once we get hormonal changes, once they go into menopause, we see a significant effect there as well.
Absolutely amazing. Rana, we've just learned all about your early life and career in the first section. I'm now going to be talking about this book, but before we do, we're going to talk about the story just leading up to that. So how did you made the transition from being periodontist, which you still are, to be fair, and a coach. So you were just telling us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I explained why there is a link.
Yeah. And it wouldn't even cross my mind.
Most people always ask me, hang on a minute, dentistry, gum disease, coach, why? What are you talking about?
What's the link?
Yes, and obviously that's the link. It's actually about people. I always remember when I went to train as a dentist, I went off to see some family friend, and I remember him saying at the time, he said, if you see a person walking into your room, you're going to be successful in this career. If you see a set of teeth, you're going to be amongst all the other dentists who have amongst the highest rates of drug abuse, divorce, alcoholism, and depression. So yeah, I'm not one of those, so that's good.
And we've just seen some of your achievements on the screen now.
Yeah.
The people at home. So you've been on covers of magazines. We've got awards there. Been on TV. Is that a US channel there?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was in America. So the transition, actually, so I was a periodontist, and I remember I was then set up my own clinic in central London, and that was thriving, doing really well. We set up a second clinic. I had 3 kids in that process, so I mean, setting up the second clinic. Yeah, I was walking around with one baby here and another little push-it all around the building site.
Oh, yes.
And I remember talking to my then sister-in-law in 2012, having had my 3rd child, saying, I wonder what I'm going to do next. Because always needing to do something, always wanting. And even though I realise I call myself a recovered wantaholic now, but because it was this deep wanting, because it was validation. You know, I needed love. I needed to love for myself.
There was a bit of a void that was always
totally. So I needed
to be filled.
Needed to feel exactly worthy. And then I discovered lasers.
Okay.
And I went completely against the grain of all specialists, because as scientists and hospital consultants, we are very led by the literature and the world of academia. But I went completely against the grain. I went on a hunch. I went on my intuition, which is another whole separate story. But purely through gut instinct, I ended up starting to use lasers in this field, and was the first periodontist in the country to start using lasers, and it completely transformed my career. So it took me from being a periodontist to being the top periodontist, or one of the top periodontists in the country, and it took me around the world.
Wow.
So I started publishing papers, researching, I've worked with universities all around the world.
Yeah.
And I have spoken on 5 continents.
Amazing.
Yeah, just on big stages, talking about the protocols that I developed that regenerate bone around the jaw. So, I get cited a lot, which is great. And I still look over my shoulder thinking, who are you talking about? Especially when someone gives me that academic intro.
Yeah.
But that was me. And the best thing was I got to take my dad with me.
Oh, how lovely.
So I took him to Australia, I took him to China, I took him to India, I took him to South Africa.
Yeah.
And I think the scariest one on the kind of this, I remember one of the first places I was invited to speak was this huge stage in China.
Right.
I wasn't worried about anyone in the audience except for my dad.
Oh.
What's my dad going to say? Is he going to think I'm any good? But he did. So that was the professional career and running a practice. And then my marriage, unfortunately, was not successful.
Picture perfect.
It was very picture perfect on the surface. But unfortunately, I've hinted at how unhappy I was deeper down. And so eventually found the courage to walk away. So there was a great deal of stress, obviously, and emotional stress involved in that, and coming from an Arabic family as well, not so well received. And then I was just getting rid of everything. And then I made the decision to also sell my clinic.
Right.
And again, this was an attachment, right? So I was letting go of the attachment. But I'd done some work with a coach, and I'd got to the realization that I could still be a leader. I could still be the amazing person that I had become, and not have to have these attachments. So I decided to sell my practice, and then I got back again to, I wonder what I'm going to do next. I'll write a book.
Yes, yeah.
And I'll become a coach. And I should add, the traumas kept carrying on. I mean, I was talking to you earlier, and I explained to you that there was a point in 2016 where
There's the book there.
There's my book.
And we have it here in real life, I must say. There we go. We'll talk about that more in a second.
Where even my professional career, the one thing that I was holding on to for validation was almost ripped from under me.
Right.
And I got to the point where I couldn't walk.
Your body just decided that was enough.
And, this was a person who, I was so fit, I was so active, I loved to hike mountains, and just trying to walk home up this very shallow hill, or, it was not steep, I couldn't do it. I just went and sat on a wall and just thought, what now? Yeah.
And what is this?
I had lots of tests, eventually went to a doctor, because medics don't like to go to doctors. We really don't. And I remember the cardiologist, after he'd done all these tests, I sat down with him. I said, I'm fine, aren't I? I'm perfectly fine. And he said, well, hang on a minute. And he suggested a diagnosis, which when I went home, it's something called POTS. When I went home and I read about it, that was probably one of the darkest days of my life.
Yes.
Because the people that were talking about this condition, their life just ended. They were, they just couldn't do anything anymore. So it linked to chronic fatigue. In my case, possibly linked to what the doctor called hypermobility syndrome. So, someone who's double jointed. But it was, whatever it was, it had been triggered by this huge amount of stress.
Yeah.
And it wasn't day-to-day stress, because I am a doer and I'm a high achiever, and everyone always asks me, how on earth do you get so much done? And I just manage it effortlessly, actually.
Yes.
And always aim to be the best I can possibly be and manage it.
Yeah.
It's the emotional stress. It's all those years of bottling stuff up, bottling every single thing up. Every negative life event was a case of, okay, sweep it under the carpet, move on, keep achieving, keep doing.
Yeah, keep learning.
And that was the problem. And eventually it caught up with me.
Right.
And I just bought a townhouse, so 3 stories. And one of the things in this website had said, you probably need to go and live in a bungalow.
Oh, dear.
And I couldn't even get angry with my kids. They were happy about that. But I would find myself having to lie down on the floor, so I wouldn't faint out if I got angry at them. So, I mean, I joke about it now, but obviously...
At the time.
It was painful. But
yeah.
that was my final wake-up call,
Yes.
and that is what inspired the book.
The book, which we are going to talk about, because we have 3 minutes till the next break, would you
do
believe,
it.
Rana? Right. So this is an amazing book, I have to say. I had a flick through during the break, and there's like accountability stuff in here where you can take notes. I mean, just if you can summarise what one would expect.
It tackles every aspect of your life. So it takes a deep dive into your personal self, because of course it's called, it challenges you about what it is you truly want and how you truly want to be. I've had a lot of men who have read the book who said, I don't know why it's called Women Who Want More, but that was to do with the publishers.
Yes.
So it tackles every element. We look at time management, we look at productivity, we look at your financial view on finances and money. We look at your leadership, we look at fun, we look at your health, your attitude to aging, your body. And obviously I give lots and lots of stories to inspire you based around my life, my clients' lives, my patients' lives, and lots of exercises which really get you to be. And one of the reviews said this is actually like The Secret. It's just much more practical, which I love.
Oh, lovely. What a great thing to say.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we've got like a minute left now before the commercial break.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read this. This powerful book delivers on more. Rana shares her expertise on how to shift energy to make you feel better, do better, and be better. Inspiring, practical, and you'll want to go back for more. And that was from, how do I pronounce this?
Diari Abda. So yeah, he's now a three-time best-selling author and an executive award-winning executive producer, an Emmy Award actually. Yeah.
And we can get this in audio as well.
You can get that in Audible, and you can get that on all platforms online.
So it's called Women Who Want More. This is what it looks like, guys. I definitely recommend you get this. And it says how to create a balanced, fulfilled life. And it's not too big. It's a nice.
We don't want to scare people.
Have that finished within a couple of days, you know.
Yeah.
So before we go to our next session, we're going to be talking about Rana's new company as well, which is called Nail It, who she's the co-founder of. But she is absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to share that with you. So, Rana, that was a very impactful stage build up there.
The pressure's on.
The pressure's on, but you can take it. So, Nail It.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic business. And when did you have this idea to create? I mean, obviously, all the experience you had, the book, the burnout, the recovery.
Yep.
You've got so much life experience, probably more than a lot of people have had in one life.
Yeah.
Okay. So bring all that together, and that's where we're at with Nail It. So over to you.
What I probably should say is I didn't quite get to the burnout because I didn't allow it. My mindset, having trained people on stress so much, was one that that day, I turned off my computer and just said, I will not be labelled. Yeah. I will not be labelled. And I would say that to anybody else. And whenever anyone else talks about my stress or my condition or my this, I always say to them, detach. Get rid of that label, because you don't need to attach that energy to yourself.
And sometimes Google could be our friend, and sometimes it can be the other.
And I mean, sure enough, I went back to the cardiologist 3 months later, and he said, what on earth have you done? And I was and like I said, that's when I committed myself to my healing journey. I meditated every day. I gave gratitude. I ate healthily. I was mindful. I made sure that I was present. I made sure that I was in the moment, and made sure that anything else going on around me did not distract me from who I was talking to or what it was I was experiencing. I looked after myself, self-care. I walked. I exercised. I went back to climbing mountains, and that's how I live today.
Yes.
So Nail It. Yeah. Really, like I said, I've been the high performer, I've been the high achiever, and Nail It is about being an optimal performer.
Right.
And I walk the talk.
Yes, you do.
Because I'm still a very high achiever and a high performer. I mean, people laugh when I say I wrote that 50,000 word book in 5 days and got a publishing deal.
Wow.
And I'm writing another book.
Yeah, good.
Nail It.
Good.
So what I wanted to do is, because I'm so practical and systematic, and I really do like to give people practical tips, Nail It came out of an intuition. I didn't quite know what to do with it. So it's been sitting on my LinkedIn for a couple of years.
Right.
And then it was Oh, it was just much more recently that it was like, okay, you know what? I have to get back into this. I have to get back out into this world. So Nail It is a formula for optimal performance and consists of 6 elements. And when you master those 6 elements, you can be an optimal performer. An optimal performer being, yes, you can achieve the ultimate, but you can also feel happy, joyful, fulfilled, complete, and present, and you can enjoy every aspect of your life, not just your career success or not just your family life, but your health, your social interactions, your relationships, your work, your money, everything. So Nail It, the letters stand for your needs, your attitude, your integrity, your limitlessness, your intuition, and tangibility. And it doesn't have to go in any particular order. But when you master those 6 elements, well, you nail it. You are an optimal performer.
That's clever.
So that's where it came from.
All your methodology, all from here.
All there. And my intuition, which,
Yeah.
I get downloads left, right, and centre because I allow myself to be present.
Yeah.
And I am a very busy person, never too busy for anybody though, and incredibly highly productive. So it's like I said, I do very much walk the talk. So, I spent years coaching clients, and like I said, and continued with the speaking, both in dentistry and now about the world of personal empowerment and personal development. But I decided actually, because I do have all this experience standing on stage,
Yes.
and had my own podcast, and connecting and communicating with people and teaching high-end courses,
Yes.
that's where I come alive.
Yeah.
And that's where I can really inspire people in the most effective way. So I now have a whole team around me with Nail It of different coaches, health experts, people on meditation, personal trainers, yoga teachers, nutritional therapists, business consultants, and we draw on those people to create bespoke, so customized events,
Yes.
workshops, retreats, speaking, coaching, and VIP days for whatever people actually want.
Yeah.
So we've had a group of women who come along and said we want an emphasis on wellness. So we have someone who's like, okay, great. You want a 3-day retreat? We'll bring in someone who's a personal trainer, nutritional therapist, someone who can do a sound bath.
Yep.
Or we've had businesses who say, we really want to focus on performance. It's like, brilliant. I'll bring in a load of performance experts, business coaches, myself, because I'm an executive and leadership coach. And we will talk about, how to thrive, how to turn stress into success, what the soft skills of leadership are and actually how they're much more powerful, self-leadership, but we'll pick on different areas of Nail It. And every exercise we do, and it's all about fun as well, it has to be about fun.
Yeah.
So the emphasis is very much on fun in personal development. This doesn't have to be painful. We like to take the pain away because no one likes to go through change because they think it's going to be painful. So it's like if we can dull that pain a bit and make you comfortable with the uncomfortable, then that's really the emphasis, and we just try to make it fun and enjoyable. But in every exercise or challenge we set you, we're always tackling at least one of these elements of Nail It.
Amazing. So we talk about this week basically open to anyone, this kind of thing, who feels that they're unfulfilled in some way.
Yeah.
They could be high achievers, they could be retired people, they could be young people.
Absolutely.
I mean, the audience is vast.
People are always looking for something in personal development or personal growth, and it's about us meeting you where you are at. And helping you grow, challenging you a little bit, helping you be a better person, helping you be more, but just in a different way. So yeah, absolutely. We have high performers, high achievers. We have a lot of professionals. And then we just have people who just say, I just want to try something different. In which case I'll come on one of your general retreats rather than bespoke ones. Okay, great. Come along.
We did touch on this earlier. I'm going to repeat myself because in case anyone missed the first 2 sections. How would someone get in touch with you or with Nail It and explore this if they're interested in listening now at home?
The most consistent, easiest way is just to visit the website, and either on the chat or the contact form, there are lots of buttons on that website that will allow you to contact, and then it will get straight through to us, and we will be very happy. There's even a WhatsApp chat function on that website, so you can just click that WhatsApp button, in which case you get straight through to me or one of my team.
Amazing.
So it's www.nailit, so NAIL nail-it-it.uk.
nail-it.uk.
Yep.
Fabulous. So make sure you write that down. Is there a number to accompany, or is it just everything through the website?
Everything through the website and the WhatsApp chat through the website. And we will, even if you just want to touch base and connect, then again, the LinkedIn link is on that website as well.
Fabulous. So, I mean, Rana, you're just an amazing person, and I've told you this so many times, but now we've really sort of deep dived into your personal life, into your careers, all the amazing things you've done. Do you feel that you are in a place of fulfillment now? Do you feel you're there, you're at the top of the mountain?
100%. I'm at the top, and I keep circling, and then I go down and I go up, and I enjoy the view from every direction.
It's lovely.
It's that book. It's how to create a balanced and fulfilled life.
Yeah.
And like I said, I walk the talk. It's not just that I've trained and I'm going to tell you what to do. I've experienced it. I've experienced the pain. I've experienced the hardship. I always smile through it, but the smile is really genuine now. It goes through my eyes and into my heart.
Yes.
Because I am fulfilled. I am at a place of peace. I am that high energy where I have joy, and others are infected and affected by me, which is great. It's
lovely to be able to do that, isn't it?
It's brilliant.
And tell us about some of the success stories. Like, you don't have to mention names, but just there might be a couple of people that spring to mind where they've come as one person, they've left as another.
Yeah, well, I've got sort of our last retreat, for example. People, typically sort of men in their 50s, go through a massive change at that age.
Yes.
Quite often they lose track, they don't have a sense of purpose, their career's coming to an end, their work it starts to change because they feel that they might be earning all this money, but the money isn't making them happy anymore.
No.
They get changes in their body.
Yeah.
They go through a huge change, as do women at that age as well. So a lot of the people on our retreat were, for example, going through a divorce and beating themselves up about their relationship with their adult kids and how they were feeling.
Right.
Got other people who always, one lady I'm thinking of, she always used to say, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Everything is always fine. But you could tell there was a mask behind that. So she said, something happened on that retreat that I'm just actioning forward and I'm really making change. I'm learning to say no, I'm developing my boundaries. And another guy who's just pushed forward with his career, with how he's approaching people. And again, he's learning to say no. He's creating boundaries. He's also learning to sell himself and his business a little bit more because his inner self-worth has increased massively as well.
Yeah, amazing story. And I will have to say, while we've got some airtime still, we've only got 2 minutes left. Can you believe this?
Oh, so fast!
I know that you would want us to be talking forever back at home, but we must thank our dear friend Mark Jarrett for our meeting. Virtual Power Networking, because he actually helped loads of people during lockdown by setting up, I think we're on 300 WhatsApp groups now.
He's on 300 now.
And that's how I met him, and obviously that's how you met him originally, and that's how we're together today. It was such a powerful thing, but he's helped so many people.
He has.
And I just wanted to give him a bit of a, thumbs up there, Mark. Thank you.
Really kind heart. And actually, Mark came on one of our retreats recently.
He did.
And I have got him, we've worked on his money mindset and got him charging for the amazing work that he does. And he's already successful, but even more successful. So well done,
Mark. Yeah, it's a massive thumbs up from me there. So, I mean, what does the future hold? Very quickly, because we have a minute left.
The future holds changing the world.
Yes.
Yes, nail it. It's a brand, it's a formula that can be translated into every single avenue. So we will be running huge events. We'll start on workshops, we'll be on stage talking about it, inspiring people. Watch this space.
Oh, it's a space I will be watching and be in myself. Yeah. Because anyone who is feeling a bit low or down and don't know what to do, you go and buy this book first of all. Women Who Want More, but don't be fooled by the women part. Men can read this too. Dr. Rana, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your story. You're an amazing woman, and thank God he's put you on this earth to help others. And I genuinely mean that. And on that note, we'll say good evening to you. And thank you for joining us at home. I know I have been away for a while. You will see this show again after Ramadan. So enjoy the celebrations and we will see you very, very soon. And if you want to contact Dr. Rana, remember it's nail-it